Okay, everybody, what is up? Thanks everybody for being here. And as you can see, I think it's over that way. We have the one and only Sharivari here joining me for a sit down live stream. How's it going, man?
It's going great. Thanks for having me on the live stream finally.
I know, right? We've been talking about doing this for at least a couple of months now. But before we get started, everybody in the live chat, can you hear me and can you hear Sharivari? Always got to make sure that I have a good audio check. Give me a thumbs up or something. There's been too many times where I would sit there and just talk, 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 and the next thing you know, I say like, "We can't
hmm
hear you." Okay, it sounds
It
like everybody
seems
can
like
hear
they
us.
can hear us. Yeah,
Absolutely.
great.
All right, awesome. So all we got, as you can see, I'm in my office, but at least Sherivari has his pool table behind us, but we're not here to play pool. We're here to talk. We're here to get to know each other. We're here to answer questions. I know this is a collab that everybody's been looking forward to, and then I know everybody wants to see us play against one another. But we may do that sometime in the near future here. But I want to get this started by asking you, Sherivari, because I think when I watched your interview on the Ride the Nine tour, you've been uploading to YouTube for about 5 years now, or at least 5 years ago is when you first started. But clearly, you've been playing pool a lot longer than that. How long have you been playing, and like, what got you started?
That's a good question. Well, I'm always telling people I'm playing since around 9 or 10 years. So I basically started with 21 playing seriously. Before, of course, I had a cue stick in my hand. I was playing with my dad when I was 8, 9, 10, 11. So once every month we went to the pub and played on a 7 feet or 8 feet table. And but it wasn't really serious. So we knew what a stop shot was. We knew a follow, the cue ball follows. If you hit low, you basically get a draw. But most of the time, we would get a stop shot instead. So yeah, these were my first steps. But then I really started at the age of 21 when I haven't played. I think 3, 4 years before that, I haven't picked a cue up for since I was 17 or something like that. And then a good, funny coincidence. I broke up with my girlfriend. My dad broke up with his girlfriend. So we texted each other, hey, let's play some pool again. And yeah, that was 9 or 10 years ago. And from there on, we were playing 3, 4 times, maybe even 7 times a week some weeks. And from there on, it never let go, really. So that's basically how I started. A bit too late, to be honest. But yeah, it's okay.
Well, I mean, cool, because like everybody's got their their story of what got them started. Because like I was just a casual pool player, and for me, it was the moment that I saw a draw shot. The first time when I was going to the pool hall regularly with my friends, like you said, we didn't really know anything. We just knew hit the cue ball into a ball, go into a pocket, and it had no concept of draw, follow, or anything like that until I played with a gentleman that did that while he was playing nine ball, and that's what changed my world. And for you, it was just hanging out with your dad. And my dad also was a pool player after being in the army. It turns out he was really good at pool. He was really good at ping pong. So that's really cool. But so if you've only been playing for 10 years total since the serious time, how long were you playing in those 10 years, or is it 5 years later after playing seriously that you started saying, I want to upload content to YouTube to instruct people? Like, where did the idea of being a online pool instructor come from?
Uh, yeah, well, the first 5 years, I didn't have a single chance against my dad, so I didn't win a single set. And we joined a club, I think 8 years ago or something like that. And I really wanted to beat my dad, first of all. So he was the end boss of level number one, you can say that way. And yeah, just try to improve and make drills and analyze myself on video. And that's actually how I started recording myself because I wanted to look at me from the screen from a third perspective to see what am I doing on the table? Why am I missing? Am I standing up during the shots? Position play and all that stuff. So that's basically the reason why I started recording myself. And I didn't didn't want to be a pool coach or doing pool lessons on YouTube. This is not an idea that I had because 5 years ago I was a completely different player. So I was, you could say, an amateur player, so not really good. And somehow I decided, well, let's do ghost challenges, let's do drills and upload this and record this. And then at some point, there was a guy who did Let's Play Pool. So you know that those Let's Plays where someone plays a game and people are watching. So I decided, well, if this guy is doing it, then I'm doing the same and maybe make entertaining videos. So I played the ghost, did a live commentary. And because I always made videos, video production, I decided let's put a cue ball on the table and let's put lines on the table and stuff like that. And this is how everything slowly started to rise and yeah, to get the attention from people, from pool players. And then there was one single video that really got viral, and I had around 80 subscribers at that point, uploading stuff for 2 years or something like that. Then this one video got viral, and I was at 1,000 subscribers within a week. And then I was thinking, well, maybe that's something you should do more often, do pool lessons. And yeah, that was around 3 years ago when everything really started. In August, it will be 3 years.
Nice. What was the video that made you go viral? Because I have a similar story to that.
Yeah, it was the one how to become a shot maker in pool with all those fancy animations and graphics. I really put a ton of work into that one. And this was close to a point where I was saying, well, maybe I should stop doing this because no one is watching. I was doing it already for 2 years, 80 subscribers. Then I did this one more video, which luckily got viral, and that's why I continued. Without that video, we probably wouldn't be here. So,
Interesting. Yeah,
uh,
because it was 2 years ago for me when I started uploading videos to YouTube, but I wasn't even doing pool content. I was exercising regularly with my best friend, and we decided to do some fitness challenges, and we were going to document because he started a YouTube channel for the same thing. And when I knew that I was going to do that, I knew that my intention was going to be that I wanted to publish fitness videos, more like for vlogging purposes, because I certainly don't want to be a fitness influencer or anything. But being a software developer, and I used to be a adjunct professor at my college that I graduated from, I wanted to do programming lessons, and I have programming lessons on my channel. I just haven't done them in a long time. But having played pool for 20 plus years, I figured the same thing. Like I have knowledge, and I can try to see if anybody can benefit from this. But when I wasn't uploading the pool videos just yet, like it was the same thing. I had like 10 subscribers here, and then maybe 20, and then 50. But then when I started publishing the pool content, I think it was my third pool video, which was a system that I reverse engineered, which was banking for one rail
mm,
banks. I remember watching someone at a tournament, and I was watching what they were doing with their cue to measure out a bank system rather than using the X banking system. And when I figured it out, I published that video. Like yourself, I was sitting at below 100 subscribers, but I was at a tournament, and then my phone just started blowing up with all these notifications like this person subscribed, and I went
hmm
from, you know, below 100 to 100, and then and then I got 100, and then almost got to 1,000. And this was me before I said to myself that when I get 100 subscribers, I'm gonna do a giveaway. Like this will be awesome. So I got to my 100 while I'm at this tournament, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna figure out what I'm gonna do for my giveaway. But before the tournament was over, I'm already reaching 1,000, and I haven't even done the first giveaway, and it pretty much just took off like after that. So I mean, it's great. That's something that we share in common.
Yeah,
Um,
I remember that as well. I was working. I was 1 week abroad working, and that before every once in a month I got a notification, new subscriber. I was working there, and I was constantly checking my phone, a new subscriber and a new subscriber. That's insane. That's a
yeah,
great feeling.
yeah. Tell me about it. But so you've been doing this for 5 years now, and I'm gonna take a look at your channel. You have over 187,000 subscribers. And I remember there was when you didn't even have 100,000, you were one of the ones in for me, not that it was a competition, but it was like a goal. Like I want to catch up to this guy because like I really enjoy your content. I do like all the animations and stuff, and I figured to myself like, can I catch up to this guy? And there was a point where I started catching up to you. I think you were sitting around like 75,000 subscribers as I was approaching 50. But then when I hit my 50, then my growth rate just like plateaued and I would just slowly but surely start to grow. But then yours just all of a sudden took off. And next thing I know, you were in the 100,000s and the 125,000s and like so like you blew up twice. Like do you know where that second wave started to come from?
To be honest, I have no idea. There were, of course, a couple of viral videos that helped me. I think the December series helped a bit. And yeah, doing consistent uploads and the topics that people are very interested in. And yeah, that's why I averaged around 8, 9,000, sometimes even 10K subscribers each month, which is insane. But the funny story is that you always trying to catch up to me, and I'm always trying to catch up with Dr. Dave.
Right?
Yeah,
Because I think you're pretty close to him. I think he's sitting around like 190 some odd thousand. So you're not that far away from him. So
I'm really close. Yeah.
this is cool. Let's see. Let's look at some of the chats here. Mitchell Blankenheimer, are you guys going to play pool in this stream in between the convos? In this stream here, no, we're just here to talk, to get to know each other, and then we're going to also be answering people's questions. Maybe sometime in the future we can do like some sort of virtual exhibition match because I think timing is going to be very important. It's 2 p.m. U.S. time here, and it's 9 p.m. where he's at in Germany. So we definitely want, if we're going to play pool, I'm pretty sure we're going to want to be like in our sound minds and not tired. So with it being that late in the evening, of course, if he prepares for it, that's different. But we will eventually try to do like some sort of virtual match. But for now, it's just a matter of just getting to know one another. I did see something in here. Someone asked, and I will let you try to answer that. This is from Doug Drews. He says, "Great stream, thanks. Is there a trick for keeping your right elbow on the shot line? His seems to drift away each way sometimes. You have any advice for that?" I do.
Um, yeah. Then there is actually a tool I'm having, but I don't want to advertise it here. So why? Uh, how do you pronounce it in English? Language barrier. Uh, you can answer the question. That's the right English word.
Well, okay, so simply put, what I'm hearing described is that he's basically chicken winging on his final stroke. His elbow will drift off to the right, or his elbow will come inside. So the only way I know how to fix that, and you can maybe try to piggyback off of this, is one, you have to slow down your stroke. Normally, when you're trying to swing very fast, that's when you're not really in full control of your muscles, especially when you're trying to exert power. So the simplest way to fix it is to first slow down and allow your brain to be in sync with your body to actually hit the ball without having some sort of outside or inside twitching motion. And when you know that you can do it at a certain speed, then you gradually try to speed up because there's going to be a breaking point where you just can't control it. Like it's going to happen. And when you realize where your breaking point is, then you have to train below the breaking point just to get above the breaking point to where then you won't be chicken wing left or right. Would you agree with something like that?
Yeah, definitely. Slow down your backswing is one of the main things I always preach in my videos. Probably in 10 videos I've mentioned to slow down everything, especially the backswing, because with this fast motion, uh, you just lose the control. And one thing that could also prevent you from doing that is some people have a weird kind of stance where the body actually gets in the way when they're trying to do the forward swing. And this is where the arm goes to the outside most of the time. So this could maybe also be a reason.
Yeah, so definitely check your footwork to make sure that your hand is not running into your body when you actually perform your final stroke. And like I said, slow down your stroke and then just slowly work it up. Because I mean, you got all the time in the world to keep improving. So don't try to do it all in one day. Okay, this is a good one. This is from Gavin O'Toole. It says, "Who is the best player each of us have ever played?" I'll let you take that one first.
Um, of course, I have to go with Ralph's 2K. We had this match on my channel. It wasn't my best match, but he actually practiced during the lockdown here in Germany at my place. And we had a couple of matches when he was here. Sometimes he practiced by himself. But yeah, of course, I have to go with Ralph. We had some great matches and really impressive watching him even just practicing. He puts 100% of dedication when he's all by himself at the table. So you actually can see no difference to the World Championship final to practicing by himself on my table. That's insane.
I think for me, it would have to be Justin Bergman. I actually got to play him in the Texas State Open, and I was fortunate enough to win 4 racks in a race to 9. He has at least been the hardest person that I've ever played up against. Let's
There,
see here.
however, there is one guy I just have to mention. No one probably knows him. His name is Tobias Heuss, and he's a very good friend of mine. I remember we played some straight pool. It was a race to 100, and he let me sit in the chair for, I think, 80 minutes, and he ran a 289 in that time
Holy
because
cow!
he reached 100. He reached 100 and he said, well, I'm going to continue if that's okay for you. I'm going to hurry up. And he was running around the table and shooting a 289. That was insane. That was
The
really
best
insane.
I've ever done is 50, and I have that captured on my YouTube channel. I do have plans of trying to see if I can eventually hit 100. I actually like this question. This comes from Ron Johnson. He wants to know who is your idol in pool.
Mm, I have to go with Ko Pin Yi because I really admire the way he approaches the table, his calmness, his pre-shot routine, and just, of course, his ability on the table. So that's my number one pick. My number two pick would be Shane Van Boening because I almost watched every match of him on YouTube. I really like the stroke, this wavy stroke that he had earlier. Just a really great player. So Ko Pin Yi and SVB.
It's actually interesting that you point out the waviness in Shane Van Boning's stroke. So my question, as a online YouTube pool instructor, which I am of myself, is typically you would hear like this should be a no-no, right? Your stroke should be straight back and straight forward. Like, do you have any comments on like I'm not sitting there trying to ask you to critique Shane Van Boning's stroke because a lot of times what I tell people is like at the end of the day, you still have to find what works for you. There's foundational fundamentals, but after you get through the fundamentals, like your own technique is going to like unsurface itself, and it's not like it's going to be a hindrance to you so long as you figure out like how to make it work.
Yeah, I think as long as you don't do this, so the cue goes to the left and to the right, but up and down, if you're able to hit the point that you're intending to on the cue ball, I think it's okay. Of course, it's not textbook, but just as you mentioned, not every one of us plays like textbook, and if it works for him, and it obviously it
It
does,
obviously does.
I
Yeah.
think I think it's not a problem. But I think uh, 10 years ago it was more extreme. I think he's a bit more straighter now if I'm right. But I think as long as it works for you and you're not going to the left to the right, you could do it because it's somehow it's even natural. You can even see it with the textbook. If you leave your elbow in place, the cue just goes a bit up and down. So I think it's okay.
Yeah, I think it's just a natural rotation of the shoulder even when you extend the elbow.
Yeah,
But like you said, as long as your final stroke is that straight delivery and your tip to cue ball accuracy is right on point, then whatever happens before striking the cue ball is almost irrelevant. It's going to be that last and final hit.
best example, Bustamante, for example, if you look at
Yes,
his stroke.
because I think his with his going up and down because I think he always leaves his tip on the table, but then on his final
Yeah,
stroke he like brings it up and then like almost like curves it up, but almost always
yeah.
hits it where he wants to with whatever types of spins that he wants to put on the cue ball. It's insane. Let's see here. Um, I asked you this once before, and I'm gonna ask you this again because you're such a high influence in the pool community, and even for myself, having admirations to be as much of an influence as yourself and like Dr. Dave. Is that all you want to be? Is an influencer, or like do you also want to maybe be pro? Because a lot of my followers know that I have no intentions of being a pro. I'm a professional software developer, and that's where my passion stays, so that way I can pay my bills and do whatever else. But I always at least aspire to be better. But I just can never put in the time to compete at a professional level. I want to compete in the pool community, but I just never will see myself competing at a professional level. What about yourself?
My dream, to be honest, since I started those 10 years ago, was always to become a professional player. But if you're starting to play pool at the age of 21, that's already very difficult. Then there also is the time difficulty because yes, I'm doing this now full time, doing my pool lessons, doing pool coaching and stuff like that. But it's not like I'm playing every day 10 hours because most of the time, as you probably know, if you're doing those videos, you're sitting in front of your computer and editing all the stuff, especially for my videos. The last video that I published took me 45 hours
Oh
in
my
front of the
goodness.
computer to produce. So I'm sitting all night and then I just don't have the time to practice as much as I would like to. So I'm participating in tournaments. Just tomorrow, I'm at a local tournament. So after our live stream, I will practice a bit, but I would need to practice 5, 6 hours a day and especially compete internationally. So not just those local house tournaments. I would love to travel in the US, play the US Open, play the Derby, a lot of tournaments. So maybe 6 months in the US, gamble a bit, travel from city to city. But in that time, I can't make pool videos and
Right.
especially a financial problem as well. I just can't publish no video for 6 months and travel through the US. So it's difficult. I would love to improve more and become closer to a professional player, but it's just so difficult. And the financial aspect is also a big, big problem because I think doing this pool lesson stuff here at my home base is a bit more financially stable or safe for me. So I just can't afford to do something like that.
Have you considered if when you do go like into tournaments or anything, like just recording that stuff and not necessarily editing it? Because I mean that's just pure content in and of itself. Obviously, edit out the any background sounds if there's music in the background or anything. But like if you do come to the states, I mean clearly you're gonna come either with a phone or a camera. So like you'll have content that you can upload, but they're just like you said, there wouldn't be time to edit it. So the only editing you'd have to do is to blank out the audio if there's any music. Like that's something to consider.
That's a good idea, and especially people. I noticed that people are commenting under my videos. They want to see matches of me, so this would be something that people are interested in. I recently was at the Euro Tour here in Austria, and I actually talked to the guys, the European Pocket Billiards Federation, if I can get the footage, and they sent me one match, but I'm not allowed to upload the whole match, so I put a small portion on Instagram. But I'm also having a series on my channel, Sharivari against pro players. So there will be some future matches. But of course, if I'm at a tournament and my opponent agrees that I can record it, then this would be a good idea to combine competing with my channel. So that's a good idea, actually.
Yeah, because I do the same thing where like I had two matches when I participated in the Texas State Open last year, and I asked for my opponent's permission, provided that I was also able to set up the camera somewhere because there's people walking around. I'm afraid someone's gonna knock the camera over or whatever. And people got to see me play in a live environment. I got my butt kicked. In both of my matches. I just posted two videos of me participating at the Texas BCA State event that recently happened. And in those two videos, I did really well. In one of them, I still lost, but my most recent video, I got shut out 0-5.
Hmm.
I have no issues with showing my losses, but because I have plenty of videos where either I'm on live stream and performing really well, or any of my APA matches where I'm performing really well, and that seems to vibe good with people because I'm sure you can understand this as YouTubers, we can make ourselves look like professionals, right?
Yeah.
Take after take after take after take until you do everything perfectly correctly and then upload it, make it look like, we are what we really are. And then, like you said, people are going to say, well, let's see you really play. And that's a whole different world. This is an interesting question that I think is directed more towards me, but you can also answer it as well. But I'll answer it first. It says, "What inspires you to have a good break? Because in your break and run videos, you broke really good." This is from Tristan Plays. I don't know if you have any break and actually you do have break and run videos. You just do a lot of commentary, but on some of mine, I've got videos where like I've laid out the break as best I possibly could, especially the 9 ball rack. I have one video where I can literally predict where all 9 balls are going to go after the break, provided that you're using some form of a template rack. So for me, what inspired me to improve my break was if I know how to shoot on the table, then the main thing that I have to be able to do is make a ball on the break. Because if I don't do that, I can't run the table. And that's why we've always heard the phrase that the break is the most important shot on the table. And then making the last ball is probably the second most important shot at the table. Because without those two things, you can't string a break and run together. What about for yourself?
Yeah, I remember my 8 ball and 10 ball break really improved because of a video I was going to produce about 8 ball, and I wanted to show the perfect 8 ball break where the cue ball pops up, spins forward, and dead center at the table. And through this video, my break really improved. But apart from this, just as a player, I actually practice the break regularly because at some level, the break shot becomes the most important shot. If you make a ball, have a position on the 1 ball. If you're playing 9 balls, then you are very likely to run out if there are no real problems on the table. So especially if you're playing a lot of money matches here, tiny ones. And of course, there's winner breaks format. So if the break comes good, then you can make 4, 5, 6 games in a row. So the break is so important. That's why I practice it. I'm not practicing a lot, but if I practice, the break is a part of my routine.
I think it was in your interview on the Ride the Nine tour. You only practice 30 minutes a day.
Yeah, not even. Sometimes I'm having the pool table just behind me, and some days I don't pick up my cue because I just don't have time. It's crazy.
Because I think I can at least squeeze in maybe like an hour or two, but it's usually at night, like after I'm done with my entire day, I've done my, daily routine or whatever, and just before I go to bed, I can probably get in like maybe an hour or two of practicing. Here's a question. This comes from Alex Zhao. I hope I pronounced that correctly. It says, when you're gripping your cue, so stroking your playing cue back and forth, what fingers should you primarily use? Like for example, thumb and index, thumb and middle, or all fingers?
Um, I am personally, I have to think about it because I never consciously thought about that. When I'm holding my cue, I think I have my index, middle finger on it. The ring finger is just passive. So I'm not really grabbing it with my
Got
whole
it.
fist. So it's just very loose. And the ring finger is just a bit of supporting when I go back. The fingers open naturally. So, yeah, 2.5 fingers.
Yep, I would agree with that because I'm the same way, and that comes from like foundational fundamentals that I learned that the thumb, index finger, and the middle finger are what's actually holding the cue. Like you said, the ring finger is kind of passively touching the back of the cue, and the pinky finger is just there. And then on your backswing, the pinky finger and the ring finger kind of naturally open up, but they also naturally close up on your forward swing. And so what I warn players when they do that, though, is you certainly don't want to clinch on your final stroke because that's going to cause some sort of unwanted movement, whether it's up, down, left, or right. So it's definitely a timing thing. But I've also seen it to where some players use just their index finger and thumb. They like teaspoon it, and they can still play like beautifully with it. And I've heard the analogy that you should be able to just take like a napkin or whatever and wrap it around the cue, and then hold the napkin with your index finger and your thumb, and you should still be able to perform, just as good. So that to me, like, it's definitely one of those things to where like it's a personal preference. I still think the foundational fundamentals is going to be the thumb, the index finger, and the middle finger because, like I said, if you're going to do a full grip, the last thing you want to do is clinch your grip right at the last second because you don't want any type of unnecessary cue movement.
Definitely, yeah.
This is from Jambo JJJJ. How do you guys practice safety play? Most videos seem to be focused on potting, position, etc., but safety can be a key part that is tough to fundamentally practice. I can personally testify that safeties are great because if you watched my last video that I published with my BCA state match, my opponent safed me all over the place. Some of them I got out of, and some of them I didn't get out of. But even the ones that I got out of by making at least a legal hit, he still ran the table, so he was in complete control of the table. But do you have any advice on practicing safeties?
I actually have a game that is designed to practice safety play, but when I'm on my own, I just depends on what I'm playing, mostly nine or ten ball, or sometimes even straight pool. I just play safe against myself. So I'm trying to save myself. If I'm successful, I'm trying to kick on the ball and get a resave. So this is a very important part to kick the ball safe. So yeah, just playing safety against myself all the time to a point where I just have a very easy shot and then I'm trying to run out the table. So it's a mixture of running the table and playing effective safeties just against myself.
Yeah, I like my answer is like I'm practicing safeties all the time. I mean, people might disagree with what I'm about to say here because when you think about it, a safety is no different than making a shot. I think because when you're making a shot and you're doing a run out, what are you doing? You're trying to put the cue ball in a specific location, which is supposed to set you up for the next shot. But with the safety, you're still trying to put the cue ball in a specific location, but you have to purposely miss the shot and I think that means that there's three types of safeties. There's safeties where you're concerned where only the cue ball is going to go. There's safeties where is the object ball going to go, like if you're going to do a stop shot for your safety because you automatically know that the cue ball is going to be hidden. So make sure that the object ball doesn't work its way back around, back out into the open. And then there's a safety where you have to be concerned with both the cue ball and the object ball. If you know they're all going to travel and will they all end up where they're going to end up because when you're playing a shot, you know the object ball is going to go to a pocket, and then you know the cue ball is going to go wherever you need to go to play position. So if you're playing a safety, you're still essentially doing the same thing. You just have to have, depending upon the type of safety, you just have to still know where the cue ball is going to go and where the object ball is going to go. So I kind of feel like I'm always practicing a safety. It's just that I'm potting a ball at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's funny that you're exactly describing one thing I was actually showing in a video on safety play. So those three types of safety shots. And of course, if you have to control cue ball and object ball, it's the most difficult.
Yep.
But there are some certain rules in safety play, some basic rules, and then it's not a mystery anymore. You have to stick to certain rules. Most important, object ball should be always safe if you're not 100% sure that you freeze, for example, the cue ball behind an object, another object ball. So if you stick to those simple rules, then you have a huge advantage.
Yeah, I think some people seem to have a misconception that a safety is always hiding the cue ball. And like that is a safety. That's actually a really good safety, but I also seem to think that distance is a good safety. Forcing your opponent to bank the object ball is a good safety, or forcing your opponent to have like a 75-degree or greater cut shot is a good safety. Would you
Exactly.
agree with that?
Exactly. Yeah, there is this containing safety. I think if that's a snooker term, I think. But yeah, your opponent can see the ball, but he has a lot of distance, no makeable shot, just a bank shot and stuff like that. So you don't always have to hide the ball. If you're trying to actually hide it and you risk that the object ball ends in front of the pocket, the cue ball ends, you're not really sure, then maybe just play a containing safety, bring the object ball safe and continue from there.
Yep. Here is a good one. What is your favorite drill for building a smooth stroke? Very even transitions with slow backswings.
Uh, yeah, I have one drill where I'm training my stroke, my straightness, hitting that center on the cue ball. That's the one where you have two balls on the table, corner pocket to corner pocket, straight line. You just go back and forth with stop shots, trying to play as many stop shots as possible without moving the cue ball. So if you're playing that stop shots all the time, you could gonna go on forever. If you're missing the position a bit, then at some point you will hit the rail and then it's over. So the
Right.
goal, play the stop shots back and forth until the cue ball hits the rail, or of course if you miss.
Yeah, and then there's the classic drill of just shooting the cue ball straight into the rail, and it should
Of
come
course,
back.
yeah.
It should come back and hit your tip because obviously, if you veer to the left or the right, then the cue ball is going to veer to the left or the right, and miss hitting the tip of your cue. So to start off with, shoot the width of the table because it's a shorter distance. It should be easier to execute. But then the more you're able to do that, then transition to shooting the length of the table because that's going to be a lot harder to actually shoot and have the cue ball come back and hit your tip. And that's where I also mentioned finding your breaking point because how hard can you actually shoot the cue ball into the rail and still have it accurately come back and hit your tip? Because if you find a point where you just can't, like every time you swing as hard as you do and you're losing control of the cue ball, then chances are that's probably not the way you should be shooting a shot. You should be shooting a shot a lot softer than that because you'll be in more control of your stroke.
Yeah, shooting harder definitely tests your technique. The harder
Mm-hmm.
you shoot, the better your technique needs to be.
This is a question specifically for you. Where did it go? Yeah, this is from Tristan Plays. He wants to know what's your opinion on small shafts, 10 millimeters to 11 and 3/4, and do they have an effect when playing American pool besides English 8 ball and snooker?
Um,
Let's
I
pref let's
person,
let's preference
yeah,
that. What size shaft do you play?
12.2.
12.2. Okay, so would you
Mhm.
go below 12.2 to like 10 or 11 and 3/4?
I think this would be a bit too small for pool. For snooker, it works, but for pool, I think it's just too small. And the problem is, the smaller the tip gets, the more accurate you have to be with being at exactly that point that you're trying to, because you can, what's the English word? A smaller amount already makes a difference compared to a 30 millimeter shaft, for example. So you have to really be precise with where you're hitting the cue ball with your technique if you're having that small of a shaft, at least in my opinion.
Are you referring to the smaller the shaft, the greater you might miscue?
No, but the easier you put accidental side spin on the cue ball.
Oh, okay, because of the accuracy that you have to
Yeah,
have. Yeah, okay. So
yeah,
yeah, the margin of error is much larger when the
yeah.
shaft is actually smaller. Gotcha. So here's one thing, because like I'm pretty sure we share this in common. You have your 187,000 subscribers. I think I'm sitting somewhere around 60 something. I'm sitting at 68. And we've got this lovely bunch of group of people. We currently have 78 people watching, so thank you all for being here. And everybody's either asking questions or saying how great they like both of us. But it's not always good. Like you've had to have dealt with like a troll at some point in time, or have received like some form of negative comment, or like you have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know why anyone would listen. Like, have you ran across, or how often do you run across something like that?
Unfortunately, it doesn't happen that often because I must admit it's a problem if you're a public guy and you're a YouTuber or influencer. I take this stuff very personally. Um, I shouldn't. They're just trolls, but I do. So at some point, there was a guy who was texting like, "Well, what have you won? Are you a world champion? Why do you want to teach us?" Or yeah, who are you that you're allowed to teach us? And I remember one guy who was commenting on the several videos. You were just cutting your stuff together. This wasn't a run out. You didn't complete this drill. So I actually made the effort because the video was cutted with GoPro and stuff like that. I actually made the effort, looked for the raw footage where no cuts were in it, uploaded it on my channel, and sent this guy the link here. I'm not cutting my stuff together. This is not staged. And he actually apologized. So
Well, that was good.
that was good. Yeah.
Oh man, because I get those comments still from time to time, and I'm glad you actually said that. Like the comment that you got was like, what championships have you ever won? And I refer to that as an argument of authority, to where like you have to be a pro to give the advice. And the only counter whenever I've received like criticism like that, and I was like, well, explain to me where my advice is wrong. Like don't attack me personally. Just tell me, like, if I'm gonna tell you, if you hit the cue ball below center with enough speed and it still has backspin on the cue ball when it hits the object ball, it's going to draw back. Tell me where I'm wrong in saying that, and not that I have to be a pro to say that. And they lose the argument immediately when they say something like that, because I'm very humble when it comes to my stuff here. I already tell everybody that I'm not a professional. I say this is the way I do things. Does this work for you? And plenty of people will come back and say, yeah, it does work, and they're thankful that they heard another interpretation of how to do something that allowed them to solve whatever problem that they were having.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't have to be a professional player to be a good pool coach. There are even some professionals players who aren't good at coaching. So you don't have to be a pro to be a good coach. It's no reference. So, and sometimes I even upload controversial videos where it's about position play and I'm explaining I'm doing it like that because of this and that. Then some people write in a comment, but no, that's not the way to do it. But actually, when I read stuff like that, I take this seriously. I think, well, why are you thinking that? And I actually confirm what I was telling by asking several pro players that I know through my videos. They came to me, say, you're doing a great work. So every time there is a controversial topic, some people would go for the side, some would go for the corner pocket with position. I just, for example, asked Torsten, hey, here's a situation. What would you do? And then he confirms what I'm teaching. So I think, okay, yeah, it's the right thing. So I always confirm if I'm teaching controversial stuff, not just like how do you draw the ball, but especially position play stuff.
Yeah, I think like in my experience, what I've seen is like people just don't seem to understand that a lot of the stuff that the pros do, like amateurs probably will never be able to do. Like it would take a lifetime to develop the mechanics, to develop the techniques and stuff. And like we're talking about here, where it's going to take even for ourselves the time that we have to practice. And if you know what your limited amount of time is to do something, then you should have an understanding that you're only going to progress like so far. And so if your goal is to be able to power draw at a full length 9 foot table, but you already have a hard enough time trying to draw the ball back 2 feet, like how much effort is it going to take for you to say that this is what you need to do? Whereas if you or me come in and say, try this and start to see if you can get from here to here, and then try to go from here to here, and like just gradually get better and better, and then someone goes like, hey, this works for me, and like, okay, cool. And then but there's going to be somebody else who's like, well, I can already do it. I'm like, well, you're not the person that we helped. It's like clearly our content wasn't meant for you, especially if you're claiming to. That's the funny part, right? Because people will say to you, well, where's the videos of you running out or whatever else? And anybody that comes in and says, well, who are you? Like, we can just respond back with the same question. Well, who are you? You're a person on Google that has a YouTube account with no content. We're at least putting ourselves out there.
Exactly.
So that's awesome, though. You talked about it before about the last video. I think you said that you worked on. It took you about 45 hours to work on. So clearly,
Hmm.
that 45 hours wasn't broken apart in 2 days, because 2 days is 48 hours. So over the days, like how far out was 45 hours spread across? And the preface of my question is, how long do you actually take to work on YouTube videos?
Those 35 hours took me 4 days and nights, so around 12 hours each day. It was a very difficult and huge video because I wanted to do something big because I haven't done it for a while. So usually a video takes 10, 20 hours right now because I have to do other stuff to do. I have my coachings and stuff like that. That's why I can't invest that much time into a single video anymore. But sometimes I just yeah I try to publish one video per week. So if I'm taking 45 hours for each video, then there is no time for something else. So it averages around 10, 15, 20 hours per video right now.
That's cool. Like,
How
cause
long do
go
you
ahead.
take, by the way?
It depends. So like the moment I upload a video, that's when I literally have finished filming it. Because I don't know what your technique is on filming, and we can talk about that. But like for me, like when I first started publishing pool videos, like the first thing I tried to do was, can I do everything in one take? And the standards at which I hold myself to makes it impossible. Because if I mess up talking, like here we are, doing a live, so like if we stutter or whatever, who cares? But in a recorded session, like me personally, like I want everything to be as perfect as it possibly can be, and that includes monologuing. So like if I'm saying a sentence and two words slur together and I catch it, then I have to do a retake. Or even when I think I said everything correctly, and then I go and watch it and I was like, but I can't make out every single solitary word in my sentence, so I have to retake it again. But like you said, when you were watching people that were already uploading content, and you say to yourself, well, I'm already doing this stuff, so let's do that. That's what I ended up doing, where I would watch your videos and see how you do your presentation and what camera angles, what words you choose. And I watched Dr. Dave, and this is how I created my formula on how I wanted to be able to do stuff. And one of the biggest things that I took away from is I don't want to say something and then there's an edit of me doing it successfully, because and that's the opening was like, well, you keep cutting in between, so I put the pressure on myself to where it's like, I'm going to say whatever it is I'm going to say and then do what I say all in one take. And that's where the pressure comes, because if I don't say what I want to say correctly, that's a retake. If I don't say if I do say what I want to say correctly but I don't execute, that's a retake over and over and over again. So long-winded answer, but the longest I've ever worked on a video is 3 days. But most of my videos, like my APA matches, like I'm working on those for like 5 or 6 hours constantly on the same day. And the moment it was uploaded was the moment that I finished. But averagely, once I get an idea, because I'm always thinking about like how it's going, I don't script anything. Like it all just comes right off the cusp. Because there'll
Yeah.
be times where like I said what I said and I executed it successfully, but when I go watch it, I go, I don't like it. So even though I did a good take, I still go and redo it, because I'll change like a bunch of words in the sentence that I said to make it more rudimentary, hopefully to reach a broader audience, et cetera, et cetera. But I would have to say that averagely, a video could take me about 8 to 10 hours, because I do clips of it at a time, and I transition all those clips together into one segmented video. I never have the camera constantly running. It's just I want the
Mhm.
camera to run for like 1 to 5 minutes is the window that I give myself. So I have to think, where can I create these clips, and then start putting all these clips together.
Yeah, but it's funny that you're mentioning that. I remember a year ago or something like that. I just were making videos where I wasn't live in front of the camera, just did my takes and read off a script afterwards. But nowadays, I'm just doing videos where I'm live at the table, and you really can't imagine how often I'm having problems with the English. So I'm forgetting a word or the grammar is wrong. And even if I think everything's fine, then I'm sitting on my computer and I'm like, what the heck did you just say? That's just so wrong. It annoys me so much because I could basically speak better English, but if I have to improvise and shoot and walk around the table, look at this camera, look at that camera, then sometimes it's just a mess. So sometimes I even sit at the computer and this one sentence I recorded with my microphone and put it over the other recording just so that it sounds right. Because yeah, I'm a perfectionist. If that's the right word as
Yep.
well. So I even take sometimes 2 hours to just put the breathing out of the audio uh, spur line.
Yep.
So yeah,
So
takes a lot of time.
it's funny that you said that about the voiceover, because that was another thing that I took from you and that I took from Dr. Dave. Y'all do a lot of voiceovers, but there was a point where you transitioned to where you don't do voiceovers anymore. What got you to do that?
First of all, people were always commenting if this is a robotic voice or a Google speech speaking because I was
They didn't
just
know it was
reading off
you.
my script. Yeah, it's just no emotions. I was just having my script and my microphone and reading everything. So this is one part. And the other part is it's just so much faster if you don't have to script anything and record it and then talk into the microphone, just being live at the table. And I think it's a bit more personal if you're speaking directly into the camera, showing things on the table. And it's also a lot easier to explain than making an animation or a fancy thing for everything you want to explain. And I must say, I was a bit afraid to be in front of the camera and talking to the camera live, but now I'm really enjoying it and getting better and better at it. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I agree with all those points to where like if when I'm explaining something and I'm looking at I've had comments that people will tell me that I look at the camera funny. Like there were times that I do it on purpose that right after executing something I'll literally do whatever it is I'm gonna do and just go and just like stare at the camera and people are commenting like it looks like you're staring into my soul or whatever. But I do agree
mm,
with like the personalness of it to where like I can glance at the camera every so often and say like this is what I'm about to do and execute this and execute that, etc., etc. And it like I said, it was just one of the things that I took from you, that I took from Dr. Dave, like I said, because this is how I was able to formulate everything that I put on my channel. But now it seems like I've started to become templated to where like I have that one main view of my table, and then I do try to create other angles. I've done an aerial view, I've done a side view, I've done plane level view, I've done the GoPro view from you. I actually remember the first time I did a GoPro video because this was after you started doing GoPro videos, and someone asked me, "Did I get that idea from you?" And I had to explain to them, no, I didn't. Like, because I had videos before you went on a GoPro where I had glasses and I was wearing.
mm,
I tried to wear just regular glasses here, and the camera was here on the bridge of the frame of the glasses. But when I got down on a shot, the glasses would point down. It wouldn't point across the cue, so you couldn't even see the
mm,
cue ball. And so I ended up moving the glasses up to my forehead, and that allowed everything to be seen. And I was like, well, this is the same thing as wearing a GoPro. But the problem is wearing the glasses. I don't see what I'm doing until after everything's over. Right, so I have to go
yeah.
look. I have to go look at post production. Like, do I even like what I recorded? And sometimes I did, and sometimes I didn't. But then when the GoPro started to have apps to where you can see what the GoPro is seeing on your phone, that made it so much easier. So I can adjust it
Definitely.
to get down on the shot, and I have my phone right there. And it's like, okay, this is it, the way I want it to go. So throw everything aside, start recording, and then sync everything up. It made it so much easier. And then like I know you saw, I think it was I don't know if it was my Ordro video where I put the my little camera on my
Hmm.
cue and did a comparison video between having the Ordro on the cue and having the GoPro on the cue. And I got a couple of hits off of that one, so I was probably eventually going to start doing stuff like that. But all of this for me has just been too much fun. And like, where do you think you're gonna go with this? You said yourself that you make a living off of this, but I asked even in your last interview, like, it has to get harder and harder to come up with content ideas as time goes by. We can only teach so much of the game before it starts to become repetitive.
Definitely, yeah, that's a big problem actually. I mean, I basically covered all the huge topics, aiming with side spin, banking, kicking, position play, principles, defensive game, and so on. So it's difficult. I mean, there are really a lot of things in pool that you could teach or talk about, but yeah, I want to always come up with something new. So I don't want to always upload break and runs where I'm explaining all this stuff that basically sticks to the same rules. So my goal would be to still make pool education, but make it in a more entertaining and fun way so that people, even though they know the topic and know all of this or a lot of this, would be nice if they still learn a single bit, but if they just enjoy watching because they get entertained by what I'm doing. So, for example, Rolly Williams from Kamui, best example with his
Yes.
average pool player series. It's just so nice to watch. His humor is great. It's just entertaining. even though I know everything he's telling the people there, I just love watching the series. So if I could do something like this, that would be nice. And of course, improve my camera settings, my lighting, my audio, my post production and all of this. Just make it maybe like a show, like a cool pool show or something like that with education, maybe guests, pro players here at my base, collaborations and stuff like that. That would be my goal for the future.
Oh, that is cool. Here's a good question. This comes from last dime taker Timothy Majors. Do you feel like making YouTube videos makes you become a better player automatically? Because if you're if you're trying to make a video on something educational, to me, like I look at that as practice. So like my short answer is yes. So the hours that I put on my table to generate a video is still hours of practice that I'm actually putting in. Would you agree with that?
100%, definitely. If I look back 5 years, compare myself to now, without this channel, all of those lessons, I wouldn't be would far away from the level I'm now. Because if you teach something, you have to know what you're talking about, and you have to be able to do it and show it to people. And even the GoPro that I implemented was such a huge thing, because I noticed when I first watched my first GoPro footage, I'm standing up while I'm shooting. The viewer can't see anything. So the GoPro actually forced me to stay down on the
Yep.
shot, to not move my head, stay still. And everyone who wants to improve his technique and his stroke, just put a GoPro on and then watch the footage afterwards. And you see the cue goes to the left, to the right, your head moves and stuff like that. It's a great way to improve. So it definitely helped me to become the player I am now, the channel and the videos.
I couldn't agree more with that because like there were times where like I broke and ran a table wearing a GoPro, but then I realized that right after I shot, I'm standing up, so like you don't even see the shot in the GoPro view
Yeah,
because you're rising, and I was like, oh crap, I got to redo the whole thing and stay down much longer than I'm used to because like I have like maybe half a second to maybe three quarters of a second of hesitation before I stand up. And that's just natural in my game. Whereas with the GoPro, I'm staying down for like 1 or 2 seconds. So that way you can watch the cue ball in the GoPro view so long as it's not coming at me. That way I don't commit
yeah.
a foul or whatever. Then I finally get up. So it really, really slows my pace down like dramatically.
Definitely. You basically have to be the player and the cameraman at the same time if
Yeah,
you're using the GoPro.
yeah, it's really something else. This is a good question. It's from the same person. It says, "Do you guys get unwanted attention in the pool hall? YouTube does the YouTube fame ever get to you? Chris, is it cool if I come up to you and say hi and show my appreciation, or would you rather be left alone?" So for myself, um, it's not unwanted for me. There have been times now where like even here locally, uh, some of my when my some of my local players that know me knew that I was starting a YouTube channel, but then every once in a while I get a local that I just don't know comes up to me and goes, "Are you Little Chris?" And then it's like, oh my gosh, I watch all your videos, blah blah this, blah blah that, and then when I go to tournaments, I get the same kind of attention, and all I can do is just be appreciative because these are people that are showing me their appreciation that my videos have somehow improved their game. So for me, it's never unwanted. What about for you?
Totally agree. I mean, in Germany, I get noticed, Germany pool isn't that big, and only 1% of my viewers are actually from Germany. But it happens very often actually that someone notices me, and I always appreciate if they come to me and tell me, "Hey, you have helped me improve my game." It's just, for me, it's an amazing feeling that someone comes to you and thanks you personally. And one of the most amazing things was when I actually was at the Derby City Classic 2 years ago. And there were really a lot of people coming towards me and saying, "Wow, I can't believe you're here. Let's take a picture together." And I had some nice chats with the people. That
Yeah.
was really amazing, and something I definitely won't forget for my whole life. So if you see me somewhere, and if you watch my videos, just chat with me. I'm open for every chat and any conversation.
Awesome. That's awesome. Let's see here. Here's an off-topic question. This is from JNav. It says, for me, he notices my headset and he notices my chair. These are basically gaming equipment, and he says that he happens to notice that your PC on some of your videos. He wants to know what games we play, or if we are gamers. I'll let you go first.
I actually was a gamer when I was 16, 17, 18, and I actually played Counter-Strike, just like you were asking. That was my hobby number one, but nowadays I don't really play any games anymore. Occasionally Shooters Pool, the pool simulation for the computer, but apart from this, I just don't have the time to game anymore, to play anymore.
Yeah, I still actively game, but not as a gamer. I use it as a time killer. So like if I don't want to go practice playing pool, or if I don't want to go out in public or whatever, and I just want to kill like an hour of just doing, just gaming or whatever. Like the main game that I still play is Heroes of the Storm, which is the Blizzard version of League of Legends. That's the one that occupies most of my time. I can easily kill like an hour playing that game, and then I still just play a bunch of apps on my phone for the same reason, just to kill time. Let's see here. This is from Tito 980. It says, happy to see both of you on the same screen. His question is, do you guys have a drill to test the difference between a 13 millimeter and a 12.3 so it is easy to know the difference firsthand? I think we basically answered that before, to where if you just wanted to hit a cue ball, or do straight in shots. Your answer was do straight in shots over and over again, and you have to make sure that that cue ball does not rock back or rock to the left or rock to the right, because that means you didn't hit the ball straight. And there could be a number of reasons why you didn't hit the ball straight. If you put accidental side spin on your shot, or you just weren't aiming correctly. And the other one that I mentioned is just shoot straight into the rail, because if the cue ball doesn't come straight back and hit the tip of your cue, then you're not hitting absolute dead center. And whether it's a 13 millimeter shaft or a 12 millimeter shaft or even a 10 millimeter shaft, drills like that are going to expose like how accurate you're actually hitting the cue ball. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Let's see here. Looks like you have a fan here. John Tank says he loves Shooter's Pool.
Oh, okay. Yep. It's a great game. I played it a lot when I was in my old apartment where I hadn't a pool table behind me. I occasionally still play it, but again, time problem. But yeah, great game.
So the same person wants to know what cues do we use, because he uses the 12.4 Revo, which is a Predator shaft. I currently shoot with Predator equipment. But I have the 12.9 Revo shaft. There was a point in time, like 15 plus years ago, where I actually shot with a 12 millimeter shaft. But when I quit playing pool for a couple of years, and when I came back, I just decided that I was going to try to shoot with 13 millimeter shafts. And so when I wanted to try my first carbon fiber shaft out, and I was shopping around, I looked at Muchis, I looked at Jacobys, but I was also looking for a cue to where the shaft would somewhat coordinate with the butt of the cue. I couldn't imagine having like a bright colored or a light colored butt of the cue and then a dark shaft. Like, just to me personally, that just doesn't seem to mesh well. And so when I ran across the Predator Black series, they all have black butts to coordinate with a black shaft, and 12.9 was the biggest that they created that was closest to 13 millimeters. And so I've stuck with 12.9s. I haven't tried the 12.4, and I think they have an 11.8. But that's pretty much what I use, and I think you are sponsored by a carbon fiber creator, correct?
Yes, indeed. I'm sponsored by Mescuse, and I'm using the 12.2 Ignite shaft with a Kamui brown medium tip on it, and of course a mess butt.
And just so we keep your sponsors happy, do you want to do you want to list the rest of them while we have a minute here?
I'm trying to to remember all the heart. So we have Mescuse, we have the ICA training system. I think some of you maybe have seen it, the system that projects line on the table. Then I have Pool Fashion, who sponsors my jersey. I have Gabriel's Billiards for my pool table. I have Aramith Pool Balls, of course, Simonis Cloth, and Kamui, very important for my tip and my chalk and my glove. I think that should be it.
So you said
Sorry if I forget one.
you did say Kamui tip for your cue. Do you use a soft, medium, or hard?
The brown medium tip.
Okay.
That's what I'm using.
See,
Yeah, I've been using this one for I think 6, 7 years also on my old shaft. and I just didn't want to switch tips. And for me, it's a good combination with the Ignite shaft and this tip. So for me, it works like charm. So no need to change anything.
Yeah, because I shot with mediums for the longest time, and on my old Viking cue that I retired when I got my Predator had a Kamui clear medium black on it, and I mean I absolutely love that. But when I got the Revo, I made the decision that I want to use what comes with it, and what comes with it is Predator's Victory soft tip. So I'm going from a medium to a soft, and then wooden shaft to a carbon fiber shaft, and it took me a good couple of days to finally get used to, oh, I don't have to adjust for deflection as much as I did when I was using the wooden shaft. But I can't help but notice now, because even every now and again I'll just grab one of my old cues and just hit some balls around. But the way I move my cue ball around with a softer tip is, in my opinion, better than when I've tried or when I was using medium tips. Have you experienced anything like that?
Mm, I must admit, I'm not the typical material guy, so I'm not experimenting with all that stuff. I want to have something that I'm feeling comfortable with. And if I have that, I just stick with it and learn to play with this, or yeah, just want to get used to it and don't switch and try around. That's why I had I think I started playing pool and I had this cue for 8 years or something like that, or even 9 years. And now since 1 year I'm playing, I finally changed and now I'm just going to stick with it because I like how it currently is, how it feels. So no need for me to change and experiment.
Okay. So here's a follow on. He says, "Thanks for this is from Tito 980. He's the one that asked about the 12 millimeter versus the 13. But he says that his question was more if you use two different shafts with different diameters, any drill to know what the difference in real games without using side spin. So if you're not using side spin, that's just center ball hitting. And in my opinion, the diameter of the shaft would have no effect, like at all."
Yeah, I agree.
RD, our autistic skew, wants to know our thoughts on using different tips for different sticks, i.e., medium, hard. We just got done talking about that. I think it's just going to boil down to that's a personal preference thing. I already expressed that I shot with medium tips, but then when I switched to a soft tip, I'm personally seeing that my cue ball movements seem to be a little bit better as in far as accuracy and actual movement, especially if I want to draw the ball or anything. I could still draw the ball just the same with a medium tip, but I seem to do it easier with the softer tip. And I think that goes to say that softer tips do grip the cue ball better. It's just that they mushroom sooner, whereas in a medium tip will last longer, and a hard tip you just have to be more accurate. Because you have to definitely make sure that the hard tip is chalked because it's easily going to slide right off the cue ball. Let's see here. I don't see anything else. So like, what do you want to give your viewers or these viewers here a sneak peek on like what you have coming next? Like what's in the works? What do you think your next video is going to be?
I must admit, it sounds a bit crazy, but I'm not producing in advance. So whenever I finish the video, the next day it comes out. So I didn't really think about what's going to come next. The new video is coming out on Tuesday, 2 Minute Tuesday, and I don't have a clue what's going to be in the video yet. And now it's
I
already Saturday evening.
Yeah, I get those all the time, but for me, like I always have ideas just like jumbling around in the back of my head, and we've said it time and time again that time is when am I going to have the time to actually sit down, record the footage, and then of course edit all the footage together. I've got a couple of fun ideas. I know you were talking about trying to be entertaining as well as educational. Do you have any rough draft ideas of like how do you think you're going to do that? And I'll give you one example. On my channel, I have a video where I'm playing the ghost, but I'm literally playing the ghost. And what I mean by that is I did a race to three, or I think no, it was a race to two. I think it was to where I successfully broke and ran the first rack, but on the next two I broke and I just arbitrarily chose a spot where I'm going to purposely miss the shot and set it up, and I have to run off camera, change into a green suit, come
Mhm.
back on camera, and then try to run the table with a mask that's blurring my vision, and then do all the edits to actually green screen myself out so where all you see is just this visage walking around the table, and actually running the table. Like when you were saying that you want to try to be entertaining as well as educational, or do you want to try to also just be strictly entertaining, like something like that?
I actually watched the video that you were just describing. Was quite a while ago. But no, I think it's going to be a slow transition, bringing a joke in here and a joke in there, and maybe leaving some bloopers in or mistakes, and just don't retake, do another take if something funny happens, for example. Just leave it in because especially when I'm filming and working with my brother, who was the cameraman in the December series, there was very often funny things that were happening, and maybe just leave it in and maybe make a joke or something like that. But it's going to be a slow transition. You won't suddenly see the Sharivari comedy show on my channel. That's not going to happen.
Okay, that's fair enough. Here's a good question. It says John Tank says that he plays at home on his 8 foot table and he's been to bars with 7 foot tables. But when he starts shooting on the 7 foot tables after playing on his 8 foot table, he seems to miss and be insanely off. How do you cope with the table change? I'll let you answer that first.
Yeah, that's a common thing. If you're playing in smaller tables, going back to a bigger table, it suddenly looks huge and much more difficult, and vice versa. The 7 foot table is easier. I think as long as you're concentrating on your fundamentals, you shouldn't miss or be insanely off because center pocket is center pocket compared to a 9 foot and a 7 foot table. So there shouldn't be that big of a difference if you're able to shoot straight or to shoot dead center in the pocket. So I think probably over time, if you're playing for a longer period of time, hopefully you get more in stroke again and aren't insanely off,
Yeah, the only
I
thing
would
I can
expect.
add to that, because considering that he says that he's insanely off, like to me, like the bigger the table, when you go to smaller tables, the easier the game is actually supposed to get. So if you're insanely off, John, I'm wondering if the adjustment that you're not making is the less distance you have to travel. Because I agree with Sharivari that an angle is an angle is an angle. The only difference is that when the ball has to travel further away to make it to the pocket, or your cue ball has to travel further away to get position, your accuracy has to be there. But if you're playing on a 7 foot table, or I'm sorry, if you practice on an 8 foot table and then go to a 7 foot table and struggle, that tells me that you're not adjusting from how hard you're hitting on the 8 foot table to how much softer you have to hit on a 7 foot table, because you shouldn't be traveling as much distance to go from ball to pocket or to transition from one ball to the other. So that might be something that you would have to look at, because it'd be the same thing if you were to transition up. If you go from 8 foot to a 9 foot table, you're going to have to hit your shots a little bit harder because the balls have to travel farther. But the aiming should not change. A cut shot on an 8 foot table is going to be the same cut shot on a 9 foot table. It's just that the ball's going to travel farther. The only difference is going to be is the amount of power that you have to put in to make sure that the object ball makes it to the pocket, and to make sure that the object or the cue ball makes it to your next shot. Just something that you might want to consider when you're practicing there. Here's a question for you. This is from I think this is Prajag Ivanovic. I hope I pronounced that correctly. It says, Sharivari, did you find Shooter's pool game being helpful in any way for players who have no regular access to a pool table regarding strategies and tactics? I'm glad he added strategies and tactics. Because there's no way a video game is going to actually help you physically on an actual pool table, but strategies and tactics, I would think, should.
Definitely. Of course, your stroke won't improve, but strategy and tactics definitely, because it's the same game you're playing, just not on a real pool table, but just on a computer screen. So the same rules apply for safety game, for position play, which path you're going to go. And even with the spin that you're using, it's actually really close to reality. So you can definitely improve your game. Of course, I would always prefer a real table if you have the chance to get to a real table. But if you don't have access to a pool table, play the game. It will also improve your game, your real pool game.
This is an interesting question. This is from Schraub Stewart. It says, you say you need topics for content. I would really like to hear what exactly your sponsors do for you versus what you do for them. I can only imagine it's different for everybody. And I'm going to preface this that he's most likely not going to say any like specific details because that's client privilege information. But what are you able to share as far as what do your sponsors do for you?
Okay, so of course I have to say most of this is confidential, so I'm not
Mm-hmm.
allowed to give you specific numbers and stuff like that. Of course, there's a difference between me and a pro player because I'm just a total different category of sponsored player. So you probably are used to seeing sponsors on my table and at the back, and I'm using some gear from the sponsors. So basically, all I have to do is just show them in the back that they are actually my sponsors, and I am getting their gear. I'm allowed to use their gear. And that's basically it. I don't have to advertise things that I don't want to do. I don't have to put product placement in videos. Everything of this I don't want to do because I don't want to be a salesperson. So I chose my sponsors, which I like. For example, I like Kamui tips. I like the mask cues. I like the table. And all I have to do is just use the gear, which is obviously not something I have to do because that's what I like to do. So this is how the sponsoring, at least for me, works. And for a professional pool player, I think it's basically the same. They get the gear, maybe of course some money, and they're using the gear. And that's basically it. So that's not a big secret or something like that.
Cool, fair enough. Tristan Plays wants to know, are there any tips about the break when someone else racks the balls with a triangle and leaves gaps in the rack that vary in size because he's played with someone and broke and only four balls come out of the rack? I'll let you go first with that.
There are actually some things that you could do, but it's hard to explain it just from here. So here in Germany, we don't have the problem because we're not racking with the wooden rack, but just with the template rack. So I don't know. I don't know how the rules are in the States. Are you allowed to correct the balls, or can you say him, hey, rack them again, or what's the rules? Because I have no idea how everything of this works in the US.
Well, Tristan is actually one of my followers. I believe he follows you too, but he's from South Africa. But at least here in the States, when it comes to league play, since you do have an opponent racking for you, the simplest thing is one, you can't get a perfect rack. Like that's impossible to happen. So personally, what I always try to make sure is that the head ball touches the second row. I don't care. I personally do not care about the other balls in the rack when it comes to my opponent. So when my opponent is racking for me, I don't go over and look at the rack because I usually can see from the head of the table if the one ball is touching the second row. You know, if there's a smidge of a gap, I'm not really going to care. But when it's obvious that the one ball like rolls off from the second row, I will ask them to fix it. Mainly because the head ball is the most controllable ball regardless if it's a template rack or a regular rack. So usually when I'm playing in my leagues, whether I'm playing 9 ball or 8 ball, I'm always trying to get the head ball to go into the side pocket. I've explained that plenty of times in my APA matches, but when I'm using a template rack, that's different. The balls have predictable patterns. I've studied them long enough, and I don't have to worry about that. So the advice that I would give you, Tristan, is pay attention to the head ball. That's really the only ball that you have to be concerned with. If make sure that the head ball is touching the second row, and that's going to be the ball that you're going to have the most control over during the break.
And maybe another simple option, which we are doing here, for example, is just wreck your own. Ask your opponent if he's okay with wrecking your own, and then you take care of your own wreck,
Yep.
if that's a possibility.
Because at least in most tournaments around here, they've gone to rack your own. And
Uh,
like for 9 ball, when they go to rack your own, because we know that you can manipulate the 9 ball rack to where the 9 ball can go into the bottom 2 corner pockets, they do put in a rule saying that the 9 ball does not count on the break if it falls into the bottom
mhm.
corner pockets. Let's see here. Timothy Majors wants to know if you go on any road trips. What does that feel like going to different pool halls? And what is it? Do y'all gamble or do you not?
Um, well, doing road trips here in Germany is not a real thing. There are not a lot of pool halls, and gambling is even more difficult because most people in Germany don't gamble in pool. I would love to do it because it puts pressure on you. It makes a friendly match a really tough competition. So, of course, I'm gambling with friends, with people from my pool hall. There are not a lot who are willing to gamble against me, and even handicap is not a thing. So they won't gamble against me because I'm way better than them, but they don't have in mind that I can actually give them five on the wire in a race to 10 or something like that. So gambling is just not consistent really here in Germany. There are some people who like to gamble, but it's hard to find them.
So for me, like when I read, excuse me, when I read road trip, that sounds like you've got a specific route that you're going to take that eventually brings you back home, and on that route you're going to stop at this pool hall, you're going to stop at this pool hall, you're going to stop at this pool hall. If that's what you mean by road trip, for me it's no. I don't do that. Do I gamble? Yeah, from time to time I'll gamble. It actually used to be a second source of income many years ago, but now it's more of a friendly pressuring type of thing because I've been in situations to where people lose a lot of money and lose their temper to go along with it, and those are not really good situations to be in. But I've also suffered the bad end of losing a lot of money. So, like I said, once I became a software developer and pool became more of a hobby, I just gamble more of the aspect where it should remain friendly. So I don't gamble for a whole lot of money. But if my opponent, even though we're not gambling for a large amount of money, if they lose more than they're willing to lose, then like that still becomes a tough situation. But usually when situations like that come up, I just won't gamble them again because I don't want to be in a confrontational type of scenario, especially when money's involved. Take your time, Sharivari.
Yep, I'm just at the door.
Let's see here as I look for another question. Okay, nothing there really. So let me see here. You talked about wanting to come back to the States. I imagine when our worldly situation settles back down, like, do you have possibly an estimate of when you think that could happen?
Um, well, I get my vaccination in August. I think that should allow me to actually travel again to the US. I don't know how the situation currently is, but if the Derby City is in January, which I don't know yet, I didn't have a look at the website, that would be my goal to get to the Derby in January again, if it's possible. I have no idea if Germans are allowed to come to the US. So yeah, that would be the goal, but I'm not sure yet if it's going to work.
Do you plan on seeing the Mosconi Cup?
Yeah, I actually had tickets for last year, but then it didn't work. I think this year it's again in London. Am I right?
Yes. As,
Yes.
as far as I know,
Yeah,
it's going to
so
be in London this year.
yeah, yeah. So if tickets are available, then I'm definitely going to get there. And also want to visit the Mosconi Cup when it's in Vegas because I had the best week of my life in Vegas. So get there back so
Well,
badly.
then maybe sometime in December you and I can actually personally meet because I do plan on
Definitely.
coming to London to see the Mosconi Cup this year. So maybe we can actually have an in-person collab. If obviously if there's time, it should be interesting. Benedict Matthew wants to know what my handicap is. So I'm going to assume you're asking maybe possibly for my APA handicap or my skill levels or my Fargo rating. So here in APA, I am a 7 in 8 ball, which is the highest that you can be. And I've been told like there's a classification of super 7 is what I'm at because there are sevens and then there are sevens, and that's pretty much where I get classified at. And in 9 ball, I'm a skill level 9 because that's the highest that you can be. My Fargo rating last time I checked was a 637. Do you have any ranking systems in Germany?
Nope, we don't have any rating system here. We have different leagues that we're playing in, but this is not for a personal for the player personally, but just for the team. So you can switch teams. I, for example, could play in the lowest league, but also in the highest league, regardless of my abilities. So there is no rating system here. Well, we have the Euro Tour where you can get ranking points, but you have to play all of the Euro Tours, but not every single match that you're playing in the league is recorded. So no ranking system. I know people are asking all the time, what is your Fargo rating? But I have to tell them, well, in Germany, we don't have a Fargo rating. It would be great, however, to have this for the whole planet, everywhere, the same rating system. That would be something cool, but I think it's not going to happen.
Gotcha. Wanner wants to know if either of us have ever tried the super soft Corey Deuel break in nine ball.
I actually have. I actually have, but only if the one ball is wrecked on the spot, because we wrecked the nine ball on the spot here, and it works pretty pretty well, I must say. It's just a bit too easy, especially if you're also pattern wrecking, then it almost becomes boring.
Yeah, because the follow up from Ronnie Rose says that it's illegal. And I guess it depends on where you're at because here in the States it's not illegal. It's shunned upon because we have simple rules that say like if four object balls after the break hit a rail or you make a ball, that makes it a legal break. The only rule that was put in place that counteracts the soft breaking is the 3-point rule, and that is getting three object balls to touch the head string, or a combination of making balls plus getting balls to touch the head string. But not every place uses the 3-point rule. So if the 3-point rule is not there, and as long as you're either making a ball or making four balls hit a rail, you can hit as hard or as soft as you want. So like if you don't make four balls hit a rail, it's an illegal break. So therefore your opponent is going to get to shoot next instead. Let's see here. Okay, so you mentioned gambling, but you also mentioned that you don't really get to gamble a whole lot in Germany. Are you or have you had like what is the I won't say like the biggest gambling loss that you've ever had, but like what has been like your most like what has been your worst loss that you've experienced in this game? Whether it's being ahead 8-1 and then losing 9-8, or if it is a gambling story or whatever. Like, what's the worst loss that you've ever experienced?
I actually lost 500 euros. That was the highest. It's difficult to gamble for more than 500 euros here. So that's like, I don't know, 20K in the States. So it's huge. No one gambles for that amount. So usually you play for a drink or five or maybe 10, 20 euros. So that wasn't very common. And it was actually not a match I had to play, but it was I had a certain amount of time. I think I had 4 weeks to achieve something, and I actually did it on the last day before the deadline, and I had to record it on camera. But the problem was that my camera had a notification about a software update that came up during the video.
Oh, no.
I did it, and I was like, yes, last day, I finally did it. 500 euros on the last day. That's amazing. Then I went to the camera and I saw this little pop-up, and I was like, whoa, what's that? Put it away and saw that the recording stopped after 5 minutes or something like that.
Oh
So of course I
no.
couldn't do it, and I lost 500 euros. And this took me really a couple of days to get over it because I made it, but I still lost.
Oh man. Let's see here. Tristan wants to know any statistics on your break speed, whether you break with your normal speed or with full power, like Mike Deshane does. Like, have you ever tried clocking your break?
No, I actually saw a recent video from Carl Boyce where he measures his break speed. I'm going to do that as well. But for me, I don't count the balls as hard as I can. Of course, in nine ball, that's a no-go. I want to follow through nicely, control everything. But also in 10 ball and 8 ball, I don't power it. I want to stay in control, hit the one ball as full as possible, don't go to the left, to the right, and also control where my tip is hitting. So for me, I have the best results when I'm using, let's say, 70% of my maximum speed. That's where for me the sweet spot is combined from power and accuracy.
Yeah, because I showed that on one of my videos where I showed that for 9 ball, at least on an 8 foot table, my home 8 foot table, that the sweet spot for breaking was between like 10 and 11 miles per hour. That's to make a ball on the break and to still know where all balls are going to be on the table, and it even satisfies the 3 point rule. But I mean, would is 10 miles an hour considered a soft break? Because if you physically watch me, like there's no effort coming from my body at all when I actually tried to break. But at least a couple of balls make it down past the head string. But then I went ahead and tried because I was curious to myself like how hard could I actually break? I estimated myself to be like in the 20s, but it wasn't. Like my fastest break is like somewhere around 19 miles per hour. But I haven't tried going any harder than that because like you said, like the break isn't about power. It's about control more than anything else. And all my followers know that I just do not like to break hard. I always like to break with control.
Yep.
Let's see here. All right, this is a question that I always like to ask because I used to have a segment where, or I have a series that I call Pool Talk on my channel where I've interviewed local players. And one of the questions that I always like to ask them, and I actually asked you the opposite, like what's the worst loss that you've ever had? But what has been in the 10 plus years that you've been playing this game seriously now, what has been the most memorable thing that you'll never forget? Like you kind of mentioned about when people come up and approach you and like, hey, can we take pictures and stuff? But what has ever happened on the table, whether it's happened to you personally or something that you saw personally that you'll never forget?
There are a couple of things. First of all, of course, my first tournament win, my first ever tournament that I won. That's something I will never forget. Then something that was also really cool is when Efren, Bustamante, and Strickland were actually in Germany doing the farewell tour for Efren race. And watching those three guys play was insane. You could even gamble against Efren and Bustamante, but at that time, I think it was $200 or something like that. Then you could gamble against them, but I didn't have any money with me, so I couldn't use the chance to gamble. It's something I will regret for my whole life that I didn't gamble against Efren. And for a match, it was, I was actually telling that in the Fire Pit chat, my first league match at a new club, first day, first match for me was down 7-1 in a race to 8, and I came back to 8-7 and won this match and
Nice.
saved my ass. Yeah, that's.
Was it alternating break or was it winter break?
I can't remember because we were playing for a long time with winner's break and then we changed to alternating break. But I think it was actually alternating break, so
And
even more difficult.
exactly, that makes it all more impressive if you're down 7-1 in a race to 8 in an alternating break format. So that's freaking awesome. You do have some fans here. Doug Drews wants you to come to the U.S. He's at least expressing that.
I would love to. As soon as I can, I will come to the USA, promised.
Let's see here. What is this? Timothy Major says, I wish we would just start playing position for the break like in straight pool. Shoot the 9 and play position for the break, no ball in hand. What do you think about this? I saw Earl play like this a long time. So that's actually interesting because in straight pool, you don't shoot the last ball in because the last ball is the break ball. So are you, Timothy, before we answer this question, I want you to clarify that when you shoot the 9 ball in, wherever the cue ball stops, you rack the 9 balls again and break from there? Or before you shoot the 9 ball in, do you rack and then shoot the 9 and try to break the rack? Because you're not guaranteed to make the 9 ball to win the rack. So it seems kind of awkward the way you're kind of phrasing that question. So can you clarify that a little bit before we try to answer that? Benedict Matthew wants to know what your pocket size is over in Germany. It says here in Indonesia it's 2 balls, which makes me think it's 5 inch. Well, not knowing what in Indonesia ball size are, but for us it's 2 1/4. So 2 balls together would be a 5 inch pocket.
We
Oh, I'm
don't
sorry. That's
have
it's
a
four. It's 4.5 corner pockets. I'm sorry.
4.5, yeah. We don't actually have standardized, I can't pronounce the word,
Standardized.
standard
Yeah.
size.
Hmm.
Yeah, pockets. So it goes from 5 inch to 4 inches, depending. So some tables have 5 inch pockets here. I think Ralph's table at our local pool hall is 4 inches, and I have 4.5 inches.
Uh,
So somewhere in between.
Yeah, because my corner pockets are 4.5 and my side pockets are 5 inches. And when I get my table refelted, hopefully here in the near future, because I've talked about it for about a year now that I was going to get my table refelted, I am going to have my pockets shimmed to where the corner pockets are going to be 4.25, and I think the side pockets are going to be 4.75. Um, what do you think, like in your opinion, is like the best pocket size to like practice play, on? Because I like me personally, like anything below 4 is just ridiculous, unless you're obviously a snooker player. When we're talking about pool, 8 ball and 9 ball, like you have to have the ability to cheat the pocket. So if you start going below 4 inches, like it really starts to get ridiculous to where like your accuracy has to be super strong, but that accuracy also limits like how you can move the cue ball around because of how less you can cheat the pocket. Like what would your opinion be on like the best pocket size to actually practice slash play on?
Yeah, that was exactly what I was trying to say. If you make the pocket so small that you can't cheat it and the balls along the rail becomes just so difficult, it's not pool anymore, in my opinion. In pool, you have to use the left or the right part of the pocket just to have the ability to do the typical pool shots. In snooker, for example, if the cue ball is frozen to the rail or close to the rail, you're not going to try to make the shot. So I would say it's 4.5 is maybe a bit too big in my opinion. So between 4 and 4.25. And of course, it also depends a bit on the glove and the rails. If they are very new, for example, at all the professional events, I think the balls are going to drop easier than on my 4.5 inch pockets because the table is already pretty burned. The cue ball doesn't slide along the rails. So it depends on the condition of the table also a bit, how easy or difficult it gets. I remember I was at the Euro Tour and they have smaller pockets than on my table, but it was just so much easier to make balls because the balls were just sliding along the rails compared to my table with bigger pockets where it's harder to make shots. So yeah, I would say 4 with a new cloth or fairly new cloth.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like I said, once you start going below 4, I think it just starts to get a little ridiculous. And for me personally, I'm pretty much going to stop at 4.25. When like I said, when I do finally get my table refelted. Let's see here. I don't really see any other types of questions. Do you have anything you want to ask me? Because I think I've been asking a whole lot of questions.
Yeah, sure. So, what are your future plans for your channel? What are you trying to do?
Well, I mean, like I said, that my channel is my hobby. It's not the primary source of income, and I hardly ever doubt it'll ever become the primary source of income because you personally know as well as I like how long it takes to make a YouTube video, and for me, the amount of money that I could potentially make off of YouTube ad revenue just isn't comparable to what my regular 9 to 5 job gives me as a software developer. But as I said before, I have plenty of ideas bouncing around in my head. As long as I still have my APA matches that I can record with my opponent's permissions, and then or even if they tell me no, that just means I edit them out of the video, and all you see is me shooting. So that way people can see how I try to break down a table in a live match, and if they're able to grab principles that I'm applying in a live match and apply it to their own game, then that's another way of learning. Um, like you said, when I go to tournaments, which are usually on the weekends, if I go to a tournament, that means I'm not filming. So therefore, I'm not producing a video. But I do try to take my cameras with me. If if I go to a new place, I won't bring my camera with me. I have to scope the place out first to see like where can I put the camera? Is it going to be safe? Because I don't want it to get knocked over, or anything like that. And then sometimes I'll be able to bring my cameras with me. That's how I was able to do my Texas State Open matches, so I can turn those into content. And then, like you said, you saw my playing the Ghost video. I have goofy content ideas that are strictly meant to be entertaining because I've had like one or two comments on that ghost video, to where they're basically asking me like a serious question, like why aren't you doing this? And I'm like, this isn't this is a entertaining video. There's no educational content in here at
Mm,
all. It's not meant to be serious. I think there was even another one where someone said the same thing, where like it was an entertaining video, and there's like, there's no way we can take you seriously if you're editing your videos, and I'm like, that's not the purpose of this video. It was supposed to entertain you. Like, how are you not seeing this kind of thing? But because like you said, like once I'm done with all of the techniques, because I still have plenty of technique videos on my, like I actually started going through yours because when I watched your in the fire pit tournament and I saw someone asked a question about the jump shot, and I went through your channel and I didn't see a jump shot video. You have a jump curve, a jump masse, which is what you did on your December thing, but you didn't have a jump video because I was instantly ready to plug your video. So like, go check out his video here. And you commented on my masse video because you were, that was one of the videos that you were putting off. Like, do you ever still eventually plan on making those types of videos?
yes, I do, and to be honest, I don't know why, because I love jumping, and jumping is actually one of my strengths. So jump, follow, jump, draw, making difficult jumps. I just don't know why I didn't make a video on jumps yet. It's strange. It's
Well,
just an obvious topic.
yeah, so there you go, viewers. Be on the lookout for his next jump video. Because yeah, because like I said, once I get done going through all the different techniques of and the mechanics that are actually in the game, unless I happen to uncover something new, then I'll do a remake of it and make sure that I throw in that new thing. Because like my breaking 9 ball rack videos, for example, like I have two of them because on the first one I gave two different ways to break a 9 ball rack, which is to make the one ball in the side pocket or to make the wing ball and play position on the one ball, and that's really it. And so where after playing the ghost so many times over and over, I couldn't help but notice the repeatable spread, at least with my break. And that's when I came up with that other 9 ball video saying, look, here's where all 9 balls are going to be after the break if you break like this. So those are all still there. And I keep saying to myself, like, I want to bring back my programming videos and I want to bring back some like fitness related videos, but I also know that YouTube channels have a stigma of being just one thing. And if I were to want to bring programming videos back, then I should create a Lil Chris programming channel. And if I want to bring
Yep.
fitness back, I should make a Lil Chris fitness channel or something. I don't know if I want to do that, but I also don't know if I want to harm my current YouTube channel by intermingling those things when that's what it was at the beginning. But then when I started noticing how popular the pool videos and how more attractive the pool videos have become, that's pretty much the content that I've been sticking to. That's why I have a Facebook page called Lil Chris Pool Player. It's not just Lil Chris. I haven't
Yeah.
changed my YouTube channel to Lil Chris Pool Player. It still just says Lil Chris, so it kind of still leaves it wide open for whatever it is that I want to do. I just haven't quite figured all that out. There's always going to be the pool content though, because like I said, I still have plenty of ideas. I just struggle with the idea of bringing back the other contents that I originally started with,
Hmm.
and if I'm going to continue doing them, or if I'm just going to create new channels strictly for that content.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We've been talking almost for 2 hours. So
Whew.
I actually have some stuff that I want to get done for the rest of the day, and it's late, or it's getting later where you're at. So I think this is probably a good place to come to a close. But let's see here. Oh, this is a
Quick
good.
answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't need a long one. They just want to know what video editing software do we use. So for me, I use Vegas Pro 18.
I'm using all the Adobe products, Photoshop, Premiere, and After Effects.
What is the so that's three pieces of software. Are you subscribed to those three separately or are you subscribed to a package?
No, it's a whole Adobe package, but you
Okay.
have like 20 apps, so I only have to pay for one once. So yeah.
Well, there you go. Because like Me personally, I don't like the idea of subscription-based services. That's why I don't use the Adobes. Like I paid like $200 or $300 for my software, but when updates come, and like when Vegas 19 comes out, if I look at the features that they're going to add, if they don't benefit me, I'm not going to buy it. So I can just sit
Yep.
there and just sit on my $200 or $300 that I just threw at one piece of software. And then over the course of time, I've earned all that money back and whatnot. And when I feel like upgrading, I can upgrade. Like that's always been the biggest turnoff for me when it comes to subscription-based services. It looks like we have one more question for you, and then we're gonna call it a close. This comes from Thomas Mabbott. It says he wants to know, do you have any plans to play in the GB9 tour this year? I don't know what that is.
I don't know either. So my answer has to be no. I'm not going to do that. I think it's Great Britain,
That that
maybe.
that that was my
So
assumption as well.
yeah, yeah. No, just the travel restrictions, the money, the time. So no, not going to participate there.
All right. So for the 66 people that have still stuck around, I think we peaked somewhere around. Let me look. I don't remember what our. I'll have to look at the analytics, but I know at one point in time I saw at least 80 some odd people were in here just
Yeah,
watching us, just chit chat and whatnot. And so for everybody that is stuck around, and for everybody, hopefully we answered everybody's questions. The chat is scrolling by. We can only see so much. So if we did miss a question, we do apologize. I'm sure if we do something like this again, just feel free to drop in because like I'd like to keep this like a regular thing. Where like we can just get together and talk and just answer people's questions. Like I said, maybe next time we'll actually play and answer people's questions. I think this is another at least future content for the both of us. Which in fact, I give you permission to take this video and upload it to your channel as well if you want your viewers to see the
yeah,
interview.
yeah.
They don't have to just strictly come to me just to see this content. So thank you for giving me your time to sit around and talk. And to the viewers, thank you all for being here. So, like for anything else, if you like what you saw from my content, give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. All of Sharavari's information is found in the description, so be sure to go to subscribe to him as well. So until next time, take care, everybody.